Good morning, everybody. Cowboy here, and it is 8:30 a.m. EST, and the unemployment data just hit, so markets are digesting that nicely. Actually, the markets, the markets are going up as a result. So let's go ahead and take a brief look at the news itself, and then we'll jump into the charts. And if you want to know more about Algo Factory, zap the QR code in the top right-hand side of the screen, and that'll take you to our website where you can learn how we help people become traders. That way, if you are able to do so, you have the opportunity to extract money out of these markets every day, possibly. Either way, here's the news, and you can see it's pretty small print. Let me zoom in on this. The unemployment claims, instead of the estimated 241,000, were actually 233,000. So this was an undershoot, by about 5%, maybe 4%. And the markets are taking that rather well. It's even showing in Bitcoin, which a lot of times it doesn't show. But the market macros seem to be mattering a lot in crypto right now, where last week they really didn't. But you can see this spike up in Bitcoin right here. And I think what has happened with the whole, yen carry trade unwinding and then being put back on and everything else, the market really wants to actually move up right now. And every little thing that can help it do so seems to be having a pretty big effect on it. So very interesting stuff, what happened there. We'll take a brief look at how that worked, but we'll also, before we move on to that, before we zoom out and look at a high time frame Bitcoin chart, we'll just look at the, I like to look at the euro versus the dollar for a lot of this kind of stuff. And you can see the euro is falling hard against the dollar, right? However, this also is looking like it's making the Japanese yen get pretty weak as well, because if you look at the dollar versus the yen, I believe this is going to be going upwards as a result of this news. Yeah, that one's spiking up hard because the euro versus the Japanese yen is actually going up. So, if you compare all the currencies and kind of shake it all out, the dollar's getting stronger, the euro's doing better against the yen, the dollar's doing better against the euro. So this is going to be where you're going to see a big difference right here. And as the Japanese yen reapproaches 152 yen for the dollar, we're going to see markets start to normalize. Probably take a brief look at the SP 500 because that's the equities market where everybody's eyes are. And let me see here. Okay, this one still looks like it needs help. Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump over to here. Interesting. A lot of markets are doing a little bit better. Now, the SP 500 did catch. It looks like there was a ton of panic right here, as it was with most markets. Price did rebound, but this news is not really affecting on the short term the SP 500, which is actually really interesting. Now, this is a daily chart, so we're zoomed out pretty far. But on the 5-minute chart, you would expect normally to see price move up right now, and instead it's moving down, probably for technical reasons, right? Meaning that it probably was moving up all night long, and then, or at least going sideways to up since yesterday, and then it's been consolidating really. See, Wednesday. Okay, it's just been going sideways all night. So it's in a range, and it's just going to obey the range for now. So interesting that this news is not really affecting the equities, but it's definitely affecting the currencies. So the equities market must be in the middle of its own technical spot. So we'll take a harder look at that in the private live lab. Let's move over to cryptocurrency because I think that's where most of the crowd wants to see what's going on. And by the way, throw a request up in the comments if you want to see a particular chart. Okay. Just go ahead and say, hey, I want to see whatever. It could be stock, it could be crypto. But this is a beautiful move for Bitcoin this morning. And, we did call this. I mean, if you're watching Rogue, and especially if you are part of the Rogue News Private Live Lab, we did talk about, first of all, my instinct for this move down was correct. And, instinct is something that kind of matters. You don't want to trade based on instinct, but you want to let your instinct kind of guide you as far as you see the charts develop and as you see the news come out. And when you've been in markets as long as I have, going back really, I could fairly say 14 years, 13 years, 12 is proper. 12 years I've been in markets trading, and really, really like trading since 2017. and technical, trained, hardcore, very meticulously technically trading since 2019, right? It's just been elevating my craft. I actually hired some mentors that were professional traders, institutional traders, two of them. So, it's one of those things where as time goes on, your instincts develop and you understand how markets work and you understand how news can work. And you start to get clues as to, okay, this might be a windup where they're going to throw price down before an election just so they could push it back up on the way to the election. And that allows a lot of large money, first of all, to reposition. And they can make money on the way back up. And then, of course, it's going to put bullets in the chamber for the election. So, and this is Bitcoin. But if you look back again and talking about instincts really quick, we'll come back to Bitcoin. This is an important conversation. I don't mean to jump around too much. But an election year, typically one of my cohorts, one of my contemporaries, if you will, did a historical look at the charts on election years, which we really could just do right now. But it's generally a sideways move into the election, right? Charts, they don't go down, they don't go up, they just kind of stay calm. That's usually what you see the past 5 election years or so. And this year right now is obviously it went down pretty recently, hard, like in the last, what is this, going back to 16th July, but there's another 4 months until the election. So there's a decent chance this is going to regain some sort of equilibrium. And, I bet you going into the election, we'll be back up to the 5,500 range. But that's just me eyeballing it. And I don't forecast out that far. I don't worry about what's going to happen in 2 months. I want to know what's going to happen in 2 hours, 2 weeks at the most, because the farther out your forecasts go, the less accurate they're going to be. Too many things can happen. The world events can happen. There's a lot of things like that. Gulton Khan wants to see Solana, and I want to see Solana. So we're going to take a brief look at Bitcoin, and then we'll run over to Solana. But yeah, Bitcoin reapproaching its high time frame consolidation, right? So Bitcoin was bouncing, as we always talk about on these shows. Bitcoin was bouncing between about 60,000 and 72,000, and this moved down. We had some data from the Guerilla, and he gave it to us pretty early, first in the Algo Factory, in the private, and then of course we started to talk about some of it where we just knew that this price was going to come back up due to certain factors in the broader, the higher level, over-the-counter market, right? And so basically, a lot of the OTC desks were giving us some data that let us know the price is probably going to come back up. Now, it could hit about 60,000, and that might retest that. And whatever it does around 60,000 is going to tell us a lot. I like to say a little closer to 60,100, but 60,000 is like a nice round number, and price pretty much bounced around there many times in the past. So if price can break above 60, then we're back in this higher consolidation. But you'll notice that each one of these peaks is lower and lower and lower. However, we are in a post-halving doldrum, right? We're in a post-halving era where price is going to bounce back and forth, usually before it eventually heads back up. So we're looking at the past few halvings, and to go by that pattern, price should start heading up pretty soon. But, nothing is guaranteed, right? Each cycle has its own quirks. So I'll take a brief look at Solana, then we'll hop over to the private live lab. Solana looks a lot like Bitcoin, except here's the thing about Solana is that it has stayed inside, even despite this crazy move down in Bitcoin and this crazy move down in the markets. Solana has maintained its its range from 120 to 190, and it's actually breaking above the midpoint. So Solana is actually rather bullish, if you ask me. Despite everything that happened, it didn't break below its multi-month range going back to March, unlike Bitcoin, which still is below that. So Solana is outperforming Bitcoin over a several-month period, and this is giving us a little bit of hint as to how strong the market actually is, because Solana is the large coin for this, the large narrative for this this move. Golden Khan, I don't know if it's a new 2008. I mean, maybe it should be. We're definitely in a bubble, and the bubble is much, much bigger than it was in 2008. The question is, though, is whether or not it's going to be allowed to crash, because I can almost guarantee you 2008 was pretty much, allowed to crash. I mean, they could have printed money and stopped it from happening. We would have seen a lot more inflation. It might be that they just decide to go ahead and let it go. We'll see what happens. If they want to keep it from crashing, they will. But in the end, with the rest of the world not using the dollar quite as much, the ability to hold up price without causing a lot of inflation is starting to disappear. So, I mean, they're going to probably use some new, as our good friend Jim Willie said, some new whiz bang, products to keep things from moving down. I know they're using the VIX to kind of keep the stock market in a certain level of control, which they let go of recently, or maybe they just wasn't powerful enough to hold it up. But long story short, I mean, I think 2008 was 2008. I think this is going to be better or worse or different. I don't worry about that kind of thing. I like to hold on to things like precious metals and, other real items. And in that way, if something like that happens, then, I have some real things. Cash actually is a great thing. If you have some cash when the market tanks, cash is pretty darn valuable at that point. So, but I'm not giving any kind of advice. You got to prepare for these things as you do, and understand that they might not happen. These things might not happen at all. So, we don't want to focus too hard on the end of the world, because I've been hearing about the end of the world since 2012 and it just hasn't happened yet. So, all right. Well, thank you all for listening, and we will catch up to you later. Don't forget algofactory.tech. We teach people how to become traders. You can build an algorithm or 2 or 5, and you can use those algos to possibly extract money from the market. I know people doing it on a daily basis. We have people who have spent just 3 hours a week. We got one guy in there who has built successful algos that are performing, and it took him a while. On 3 hours a week is not a lot of time, but he did. He just chipped away at it, built his algo, and is seeing some success with it. We have a number of guys who are successful. AlgoFactory.tech. Don't forget, trade your job, upgrade your life, and we'll see you on the next one.
Join us or die.